Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today we're going to be doing an unboxing or a unclamshell packaging the new SOG Power Pint. Let's get started. So this recently went on sale on SOG's website. I got this for less than $30. I think it was like $29.70, something like that. So for the price, I thought I'd try it out. I have a coworker, you know who you are, who chose this as his preferred EDC, and at that price, I figured I'd give it a try. Now, I've read some disparaging things about it, so we'll see what the initial impressions are upon opening this guy up. But we have needle nose pliers, soft wire cutter, scissor, inch ruler, magnetic bit holder, bottle opener, number 1 Phillips, serrated blade, can opener, jewelry, screwdriver, and all, straight blade, hook cutter, a file, a wire crimper, a protractor, a bolt gripper, and I think that was all of it. So 5-inch from furthest tip to tip. When it's all closed up, we're looking at 3.2 inches and a weight of 4.2 inches. It's some kind of, looks like chrome. Is that a CR? Anyways, 5CR, 15 MOV, whatever that is. And I got it in the black. So let's go ahead and use my Swiss Champ, Swiss Army knife, to open up the new SOG. Got a lot of S's in play here. I'm not going to... Anyways, let's go ahead and cut this open off camera. All right, so I'm going to leave this here for now. This is the Swiss Champ. It's one of the larger Victorinoxes. I plan to do a more detailed comparison, but we'll keep this here for now. The SOG packaging is open. Looks like we have a RFID tracker. The anti-theft kind of needs to be deactivated by the scan kind of jobber bobber. I'm going to leave these details again right there. Take a look at this guy. I like the weight of it right off the rip. Doesn't seem to be any loose parts or tools flinging out or anything like that. I'm glad I went with the black. I do like the black texture. I'm sure that'll get scratched and buffed and scuffed, but that'll also add some character, much like my fingers. So the thing I do like about this is I haven't had a SOG before. Again, the coworker has one. I was able to handle it a couple times. I like the compound leverage mechanism. It absolutely works. So if there's something that you need to grab, the smallest amount of movement here is going to be compounded into leveraging the grip here. So just the slightest amount of squeeze on here is going to hold that very, very tightly versus the 3 Leatherman that I have. I feel like while the pliers are bigger than the Swiss Army knife, I really feel like I'm not missing anything by not carrying my substantially heavier, less tool set Leatherman. Hashtag come at me. I prefer the Victorinox. So this guy, I'm hoping will buck the trend. You can see a little bit of glistening, a little bit of oil already. There's no squeaks or binding or grinding or metal on metal contact there so far. We do have a silver cutting edge right there and right there. And I say silver in that it doesn't appear to be treated in the black, hard cased black, whatever that is. Doesn't seem like a paint as much as like a nitride finish or something, but that's what we have. We do have 1 inch and what appears to be 1/4 inch measurements. You can see this one is dorked, would be the industry term. Got a little bit of a warble, also an industry term, in the metal there. Straight, less than straight. So bit of a defect there. We have a 14 and a 15. I'm going to assume those are centimeters. If we lay this flat, we have 1, 2 centimeters. Ambiguous. Somewhere in there is a 3. That's a 4. That's a 5. Do they continue marking it? No. And then you just jump to 11, 12, 14, 15. So not sure what I was expecting there. Seems like the 2 last quarters of a useful ruler, but okay. The fitment seems pretty decent. There's a symmetrical gap here as well as there. We have the same on the other side. Supposed to have a compass function. So if we look here, there's little writing, and we have this white line right here and right there. Right now I'm pointing at, I'm going to have to play with it. Well, let's do this then. So that's a 45-degree angle right there. Not sure if that's 45. So I'll play with that. What I'm running into is I imagine this line is the index, but I don't know what I'm indexing with. And that, like, this says 180, but then there's a line next to the 0. So I don't know if I'm pointing this at the 180. I imagine it couldn't be, because anything from here to there would be 180. This is completely flush open. So based on that, this line would be indexed with that straight line. This is a 90 degree, so let's see if that's true. Yeah, I would say here to there. So you do have a 45, a 90, a 180. Let me get a closer look off camera. 180, 160, 30. So you do have a couple different. That would be a 30 there. And it is on both sides. And it is the same angles on both sides. Not sure how functional that is, but it's kind of interesting that they added that in there. Ooh, that is, man. So this one isn't as loose as his was, but even then, with, if you just grab it by the belt clip here, which I do like that there's a belt clip included, give it a flick, it opens up enough where you can continue doing it with, oop, so there's a pinch. Gonna have to practice that technique, but grab it there, give it a flick, and you can open and close it one-handed. That's better than I can say for the Victorinox. So that's kind of all the outside things. On the, well, with the tools that are built in, we have a sympathetic withdrawal on these, in that I'm only pulling on the blade, but it will bring the awl with it, a little bit of the screwdriver with it. Versus, I think it's the Victorinox, what do they call their spirits, I think? Their Leatherman style offering has individual what are those? Brass bushings that will allow the individual tool to come up without all of them being sympathetically withdrawn like this one is doing. I heard the file was less than aggressive, and it has been changed with a new release. This one appears to be pretty aggressive. So let's go ahead and do one at a time. We're going to start with the file. We have a nice audible and tactile click that is not moving anywhere. There is just the least littlest amount of slop on that. If I use it on my nail, it is removing. Cleans up easy enough. This side is also gripping, less so. Nothing along the top. And then you have a metal cutter along the bottom spine there. So you can, I'm sure everyone knows by now, but if you open one of these, let's try. That's like what, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, call it 30 degrees. If you open another tool 30 degrees-ish, it will allow you to release the lock mechanism and be able to retract that tool. Otherwise, it is locked in place and you have to open it up like this, push N on this back bar, and then it will release. So, saves yourself the trouble there. This is a draw cut, a hook cutter. Kind of dirty. I'm going to clean all this up, but appears to be sharp. That could be useful as a box opener. Pop a hole in a box or tape and then draw cut versus using a blade. I do not have anything like that on the Victorinox. A very long tool here for a very small screwdriver. Again, no wobble on that. The awl I'm going to be interested in. I have used the Victorinox one. Not a big fan of it being on the back spine. This one's going to be a little bit more in line. Appears to be quite sharp. A different shape and contour than the Victorinox. This one seems a lot simpler. I don't know how effective it will be, but I can tell you it's going to be a lot easier to sharpen and maintain. Looks like you have a sewing eye as well for people who need that. I have yet to use it on mine, but it makes it lighter at least by having less metal in there, and can also be used for sewing. The main blade can be accessed with the thumb stud, I guess a negative thumb stud, in that it's recessed instead of an actual stud sticking up. But let's see if I can retract that. Okay. Does come up. I do have a trick that I showed the coworker, and I'll be doing on this as well, but this is stock for now. Blade is the entire length. By that I mean, if we compare it to the Victorinox, we have probably just shy of a ½ inch of the blade length that is not used for a sharp edge. I forget what that's called. I'm not really a knife guy. This one is just the blade the whole way. So it may be smaller than the Victorinox blade, but it is 100% edge on that blade versus a little bit of arguably wasted real estate. So that's nice. Put this away. Not sure how I feel about that sympathetic release. I am going to try and oil these guys and see if that frees up a little bit. And then if you pivot this out, you can attach a lanyard or onto a keychain or something like that. Simple enough to roll back out of the way. We're going to go a little bit faster on this side. That is the cuckoo clock. Everyone should have one. If you put your fingers along the tool set and slide out, this one's giving me some resistance right there. There's a hard stop as it jumps over the lock mechanism there. So, okay, let's do this. On my fingernail, there's a hard stop, and then it clicks. So that may free up with time. Serrated blade, not a big fan of serrated blades. Honestly, kind of disappointed that there's not a saw blade on this guy. This will have to work for now. Yes, I do use the saw blade. I have 2.5 acres of property. I cut a bunch of branches and That is the grandfather clock. Everyone should have one. Yard care and stuff like that. So I will be using a saw blade if I have a saw blade, and this doesn't have one. Going to do the sympathetic release. Next up, a can opener. Not the strongest design. The industry standard Victorinox is substantially larger. Seems to have, you know, I'll say it has about the same cutting edge. I would say a little bit longer on the Victorinox, but definitely more leverage in a deeper bite. But we'll try that on some cans. There is a simple mod. I will be doing it. You can see this has a double step, 1, 2, to a nub. And the reason they did that, I speculate, is so you have a finger detent index for you to grab and pull that tool out. I say that because there isn't a cut for you to get your fingernail into like the Victorinox has. You have to grab it by the edge, and you wouldn't be able to with the Victorinox, right? They're stacked next to each other, but also this one, you have no other way to pull it out. You have to get your fingernail in there to pull that up, and even then it's not super conducive. So the mod is just to grind that flat, give yourself a flathead screwdriver, which is what I'll be doing on that. Bring this guy up. We have a, did they say, a number 1 Phillips. It is, I'd call it a 2-dimensional or a 2.5-dimensional. It is not symmetrical. It is not squared. It's more rectangular. I'm not sure how I can show you that in this light. So you can see it's relatively narrow that way, quite a bit thicker this way, as opposed to the number 1 and number 2 of the Victorinox. You have a much longer reach, a much bigger head. Let's compare it against a finger there. I do use this one all the time. I like that it's a 180 degree and a 90 degree. Gives you a lot more torque this way, but a lot more speed this way. It does lock, which is nice. These are all slip joints. This one actually locks into place, so you could put theoretically a lot more leverage on that. Moving on. We have the cap lifter. Seems it's a different design from what I would say the industry standard, gold standard for the Victorinox. I mean, I don't need to put it into words. This one seems much beefier. About the same thickness, truth be told. Maybe a little thicker on the Victorinox. A little bit more reach, and that reach is going to give you more leverage as well, but time will tell. Same thing here. You have a single step. I'm going to grind that off and give me another flathead on this. Good for prying and scraping. We remove a bunch of stickers and adhesive and stuff at work, so I would rather have that than a little nail nick, especially since this is sympathetic. If I open this, these essentially spread themselves out. I can grab the one I want, put the rest away, so I don't necessarily need that nail nick. And then the scissors. I hear not great things about the scissors. And that didn't instill confidence, so let me try that again. I don't know if they open and close these at the factory or how many times they test it kind of thing, so let me try that again. There is a much softer, so there's 1, 2. There's a false detent where you would think that that would be locked into place, and it's not. It takes a little bit more effort to do it. Now it is locked in place. What I'm going to try and do is if I deploy that to the false detent, which is, that time I didn't do it. Interesting. Once more with feeling. All right. So there it is at the false detent. It looks like the spring doesn't have any tension on it, so that's probably what I'm fighting, is locking that spring into place, because when I do this, the spring snaps. So that's what it is. I'm fighting that spring. I have to tension this bar into the locking mechanism to allow this spring to push off of this bar. And that's actually not too big of a problem, I don't think, because fifth time, we're going to try that slowly. I'm going to go for the false set, which is about there. And when I go to push with my thumb, it will push it into the detent and allow it to start working. So not the biggest of deals. In order for the scissor to work, I'm going to have to use my thumb to push the scissor into place anyway. So I'm not super concerned about that. We do have a roll of paper towels here, and I'm just curious. I mean, it cut that pretty good even out at the tip. So I hear not great things about the scissors. It is unfair too, but we will do it anyways. Compare it to the Victorinox scissors. Yeah, that's not really fair. Going at the pivot point, right about there, you can tell the size of the blades substantially longer on the Victorinox, maybe 30% longer. The overall length, I mean, 30% bigger across the board for the Victorinox. Not really fair. And we'll go ahead and put that away as well. So far, it's kind of, I mean, Swiss engineering versus the China. So you're going to have that. I'm going to try oiling it. We're going to free them up and start using them. I have a challenge for myself. I challenge you. For a week, I'm going to carry this SOG. I'm going to do a video on it, report back with my findings. I'm going to remove this from my carry. I'm going to have this on my belt at work. I'm going to see what I miss about the Victorinox. If anything, it's going to be singing the praises of the Victorinox while celebrating what this little guy is capable of. It is smaller than the Victorinox by maybe a sixth, a seventh. This says it's 3.2 inches. This is 3.5 inches, so it's a 1/4 inch smaller. If we laid it this way, Victorinox is about 1 inch wide, including the belt clip. This is 3/4 inch. Removing the belt clip, it's going to be just over a 1/2 inch wide, so a little bit more svelte. And then sideways, Victorinox, Swiss Champ, to be fair, a larger pocket knife versus a smaller Leatherman style. We're looking at 1 1/4 inches versus this guy at its widest place is 1 inch. So it is going to be a smaller package. It is going to be lighter. This is 4.2 ounces. I'm pretty sure this is 6.1. Roll in here if I need to make that change. He's going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. I have a makeshift belt clip. I will wear this on my Batman utility belt, as it's been so lovingly called. I'm either Batman or Inspector Gadget, and it will vary day by day, person by person. But I wear this on my belt, so that'll be pretty easy to switch over. This could almost be pocket carry, I feel. It's thin enough, maybe a couple of hot spots versus the relative flush sides of that. We are going to rotate this out of the work EDC and start carrying this guy. We're going to wipe it down. I have some oil at work, so we're going to oil these up. and see how much of a difference it makes and see if it's something that I would recommend to you guys out there. For the price, for 30 bucks, I'd say it's a no-brainer. For 50, for me, I would say it's pushing the envelope. I'm not a neater of pliers. Honestly, I get by pretty well with the precision puller instead of the pliers that the Leathermans offer. And again, for their weight, I haven't felt the need for one. But I haven't had the SOG Power Pint either, which is kind of a best of the both worlds, it seems. It's almost, well, we just proved, it's a little smaller than a Victorinox. To be fair, one of the larger Victorinoxes, but it is smaller than the Swiss Champ. Offers a couple of different tools. None of them are bigger, I don't think, with the exception of the pliers and the ruler. Jokes be made, but I find this ruler is incredibly useful. This tool is actually one of the more used ones. It's a 3-inch long flathead screwdriver. Once I free a flathead screw loose, I'll switch over to this guy and be able to free up with it. Or if I'm using the Phillips, I can use this as a longer handle and be able to rotate the screw in or out, and I find it super useful. This one is there. I don't even know how accurate it is, let alone the lack of, I mean, a quarter of it is missing. So I don't know how practical it will be, but it's better than not having it there, I guess. The metal would have only served the one purpose instead of now two. Which leads us to the last thing it does. And that is, you can see right here, there is a silver inlet there. And what that does is this. So supplied separately, you can see when you close this, it gives you a 6-sided, come on, I believe these are 1/4 inch. And then you can put whatever bit you want to in there. And now you have a replaceable bit screwdriver, or if you don't need the reach or want to save the pocket space, you can put the tips in there directly. They made it where, so it's 6-sided, right? You could have the flat side here or the flat side offset a little bit. So you cannot put the sharp edge to the gears. You have to make sure that the flat is up against the gear. You could hear the magnet does grab it, does hold it in place, but the mechanical squeezing of the pliers, and I do like that they leave enough space here that you can squeeze the pliers closed. Let's see with the light, there we go. You can squeeze the pliers closed, and that's going to tension that bit into place. So I do like that. By that I mean, if you go like this, I cannot squeeze that closed, and it can only be as tight as it already is. And just by spinning it, it's likely to open up on me and drop the bit out. If I have to squeeze it to keep it closed, I feel like that's going to give me a little bit more compound leverage to hold that thing in place. So I do like that. Again, it's just as easy to go with the full-size one, and now you have the magnet in there to hold the things. Even if I open this, where's that magnet? That magnet is not strong enough to hold the extension, which is substantially heavier than a standard bit, right? But I mean, this has to be open quite a ways to get that to drop out. I don't know how useful that's going to be. It's going to give you an inline screwdriver, but like with this one, I have this entire handle that I can use as torque, as leverage, and I'm now working around the screw versus the only leverage I have is what, a 1/2 inch trying to spin this. So I don't know how practical that'll be. I'll use it over the next month and determine. I do carry the Harbor Freight Icon set, so I don't know that this is going to be my dedicated driver anyways, but it is something that it is capable of. A double-sided screwdriver will not work. I guess if the head is big enough to grip, this one is not, so it's just gonna wobble out. But if you can squeeze onto the larger head, you can use the further reach of the smaller head. It all depends on how you want to build your kit, but that is the overview of the SOG Power Pint. So far, I don't feel like I wasted my money. For $30, I feel like it's a good return on investment. Quite a bit of oil, which I guess is better than the alternative. As I said, I'm going to do a video on 1 week of, I've relied on this as my third hand for the last 5 years. So removing this from the equation, relying on this is going to test it quite a bit. And I will have to learn to rely on it, have to learn its pros and cons, how aggressively it pinches me when it misbehaves, or more appropriately when I misbehave, and treat it like something I'm not familiar to, or try impressing co-workers and get pinched by all these moving metal bits. But that's something I'll report on as well. So as always, this is outside the target demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Any questions, comments, concerns, and experience that you guys have had with these, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below. Anything you feel like I need to know, or any modifications you've performed, leave those in the comments section as well. And as always, this is outside the targeted demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and I'll catch you in the next video.